Hello everyone, welcome to something completely different from my channel. And this is a little look at some backing music that I'm working on to try and mix in sometime early next year with a DCS, probably DCS cinematic video where I will be featuring the saber. That's the plan at this point anyway. I may end up using this tune for something else, but that's the plan. So what is this? This is the composition or the composing software that I use. It's an audio workstation and it is called Bitwig, German produced program. And basically all along the top here I have various instruments, from pianos, strings, brass, various other woodwinds in here, some choral sounds and some percussion over here. I can just play you a few of these instruments here. So they're just linked to a piano keyboard controller. So that's me obviously playing, I think I'm actually playing two instruments at once there. Let's just disable this one and just have a bit of percussion. And then we've got some various other things. This is a brass. Actually sounds a lot better down a bit lower. So I've noticed that a lot of people, when they're making cinematic videos for gaming and particularly for flight sims, they tend to use these orchestral sounding pieces, and a lot of them are sourced from one or two specific composers online who have quite prominent YouTube channels where they showcase this kind of music. And I've used a couple of them in the past myself, but recently I decided that I would actually try and have a shot at writing my own tunes. Two reasons for that. One, it gives me a chance to be creative in writing some music and trying to get some music heard. And secondly, it means I don't need to worry about all of the royalty / copyright / monetization problems that you invariably get when using music that's been composed or performed by somebody else. A lot of the videos that do use this kind of choral music tend to be heavily reliant on a very formulaic sound. I have basically taken that formula, but I've tried a lot to avoid using a specific chord progression which you hear in a lot of these similar tunes. And I'll play what that kind of chord progression sounds like. It's probably really familiar to many people. I'll just play it with the piano instrument. I'll just drop this down a bit lower so it sounds a bit heartier. So that's the sound that you're probably familiar with hearing, and you've probably heard it 1,000 times before. So I've developed a very basic chord progression for those who are musically inclined. It's a C minor, A flat, B flat, G, I think it's a G minor. I've just saved it in the file name, and the basic chord progression is kind of most obvious in the peak section of the song. I've got some strings which are playing the repetitive kind of main theme of the piece with a brass section over the top. So I think I can probably play that. This is kind of at the center of the piece, at its emotional peak, if you like. And then if I bring in the percussion as well, so that's kind of the height of the piece. Where there's a build up into that essentially from a piano and some chorded legato strings, which is in here at the start of the piece. So you can see that the 4 chords I'm using are actually the exact same 4 chords that you'd normally get from a walk down. I've just changed the second and third ones. I've essentially just swapped the position around from walking down from C down through B, A to G. I've swapped the 2 around in the middle and inverted the triads to try and break out of that standard walk down. And it kind of does the trick. I'll let others decide whether they think it works fully or not. So that's the basics of the piece I'm working on. Here it is kind of laid out, and the total runtime that I've got at the moment is just under 3 minutes. I don't know if there's anything really special that I should play here. We can just play the transition from the intro section into the main kind of emotional peak of the piece. And you can hear the choral section here as well. And then I've got this very short section a bit later on, I think it's here, which is quite stabby. And there's a deliberate reason I've done this, so I'll play the stabby bit. So what that does is when you hear those da sections with the kind of break afterwards, those are really nice to use as transitions between specific shots in the video, which I'll put together once the piece is done. You'll see this also quite a lot with people who do these cinematic videos. When there's a large percussive stab or a instrumental stab, they will often use that to suddenly bring in a new shot, and then you can kind of fade that shot out, and then on the stab you use the audio and the visual kind of cues at the same time. You see that a lot in these sort of cinematic gaming videos. Anyway, that's basically the piece as it comes along. I am going to continue writing this and polishing it, I guess. Then we may actually do a short video on how I'm putting some of the shots together. I'm not an expert by any stretch of this. I don't claim to be a good YouTube video maker. Guys like Glowing Amram are light years ahead of me, and I'll never be at that level. But this is mainly just for interest's sake and to encourage others who have a little bit of musical talent perhaps to get yourself a digital audio workstation. I have invested a bit of money in this one, especially buying the station itself and some of the plugins, but you can do a lot of this for free. And instead of relying on somebody else's music for your gaming videos, perhaps try writing some of your own. So thanks for watching. I hope that was slightly interesting, and maybe, as I said, in the future we'll have a look at me trying to composite some of the various shots together, and then we'll look at the final product in a couple of months.